I think they built something great here. And, last year was phenomenal, completely different. The first playoff game in 30 plus years, right? And hosting it here in Detroit, getting a chance to host two playoff games here in Detroit was definitely special. And so, yeah, for the business side where I sit, um, it's created new problems, but good problems to have, right? Good things to try to figure out how to solve there.
Welcome to Bullhorns and Bullseyes, the podcast where precision meets promotion. I'm Tom Nixon.
And I'm Curtis Hayes.
We're thrilled to have you join us as we discuss the ever-evolving world of sales and marketing. Every week, Curtis and I bring our own specific experiences and expertise, along with a special guest who has stories to tell and lessons learned to share. We're here to help you with strategies that hit the mark and amplify the marketing. Before we kick off today's episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop. And if you find our discussions on target, leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us. Now get ready for insights, tips, and conversations that will up your marketing game. It's Bullhorns and Bullseyes with Curtis Hayes and Tom Nixon. Let's ride. Well, Curtis, we are fast approaching my favorite time of year. It's almost September. I've got
Which is your birthday month,
September,
right?
Yes, September 1st is my birthday. We've got Labor Day weekend, which I always celebrate my birthday for an extended weekend. We've got fall weather coming up here in Michigan, which I love. And most important of all, perhaps, we have football season is right on the horizon.
Yep, and we got a lot to be excited about here in Detroit for football season, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, for 52 of my 54 years on this planet, I wasn't all that excited, to be honest with you, except for maybe the Barry Sanders and Billy Sims eras, which were, kind of slices of Detroit Lions lore. But that's all changing, thanks in part maybe to our guest today.
Yes, yeah, we've got a great guest today. Good friend of mine. Without further ado, I'll introduce Scott Howland, who's the senior manager of CRM and marketing research at the Detroit Lions. I met Scott a number of years ago. Our daughters were playing softball together in the Birmingham Softball League, and we got the opportunity to coach our daughters together for a couple of years. And it was great to get to know Scott. And I think, is it 5 daughters, Scott?
So there were
Four
daughters.
daughters.
No, not 5 yet.
Yeah. All in sports, big Michigan fans, I think, right? And
Yes, sir.
play
Go Bulls.
soccer and softball and travel. And then, Scott here with the Detroit Lions. So great to have you on the show today, Scott. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Tom, I echo all your sentiments on the time of year. My birthday is also in September too, so one of my favorite times of the year, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got a great story about Scott. So he taught me quite a bit about coaching. I was a baseball guy, and I did coach t-ball with the girls when they were younger, and then got into softball. And so I had to transition because some of the rules, are a bit different. And so Scott taught me for a couple years, and then as our daughters got older, we actually got split apart onto different teams, and I kind of ended up with a bunch set of girls who didn't know each other. They all kind of came on the team, and very few knew. They were all from different schools. So we were a little bit like, we were the Grizzlies, but we were kind of like the Bad News Bears a little bit. We ended up having a really good season, made it to the finals, and of course for playing Scott and his girls, he had just had a powerhouse of a team. And he outcoached me. All the girls played excellent, but he had to outcoach me. So Tom, I don't know if you know this, in baseball, I know we're talking about baseball and softball here, and it's football season. We'll get to football in a second. But in baseball, if you pull your pitcher from the game, you can't put them back in. In softball, this is how Scott beat me. He put his best pitcher against my top players at the top of the lineup. And then the second inning took her out and then put in a second pitcher. And then when it got to the third and fourth inning and my top of my lineup was up again, he put his best pitcher back in. You can rotate your pitchers. Rotate them back in.
That sounds like cheating, but
you can do it in girls softball, apparently. I did not know this rule. I was like, I saw this girl come back up on the mound, and I was like, wait, what is he doing? He can't do that.
Yeah, it's all about playing the
hopefully
matchups.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully, since then, you've wielded that tactic against your opponents, Curtis.
And so we actually got out of softball after that. I mean, he just defeated us so bad. We were just like, you know what? We
uh,
can't compete.
Making your tail brand,
Yeah.
Curtis. Stick
No,
to your
no,
tail
no.
brand. But yes, that was it. You got to know the rules. You got to look for those edges, and I guess in some cases how to kind of not exploit them, but use them to your advantage. But that was one that definitely kept in my back pocket for several years. But I think the cat's out of the bag on that now. I see a lot of our teams doing that, just to get those right matchups when you won.
Yep. I didn't see it the whole
Yeah.
entire season, and then we get to the championship game, and Scott uses it against me. I was like, I thought we were friends,
Yes.
buddy.
Yeah.
I thought we were friends.
uh,
Well, speaking of championships at the end of seasons, we need to talk about the Super Bowl contending Detroit Lions. Scott, I kind of alluded at the beginning by mixing up Barry Sanders and Billy Sims that I lived through the Billy Sims glory. Another one bites the dust. I lived through the Barry Sanders 12-4 season. None of those, neither of those, or anything in between felt as authentic and real as what we're experiencing now as Lions fans. This feels like it's got staying power. We might contend for a Super Bowl this year. We practically did last year. This has got to be a different somebody who's been in customer relations and in marketing in general and strategy. It's got to be a different animal for you now that like the Lions are the hottest ticket in town.
Yeah, it has completely changed. I came over to the Lions in 2015, and so I think we had one playoff year under Jim Caldwell, right around the start of my time here. And then, kind of switched shares, moved on from him, and didn't have a lot of success there in the middle. And now with under coach, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes at the helm. Um, Agreed. I think they built something great here. And, last year was phenomenal, completely different. The first playoff game in 30 plus years, right? And hosting it here in Detroit, getting a chance to host two playoff games here in Detroit was definitely special. And so, yeah, for the business side where I sit, um, it's created new problems, but good problems to have, right? Good things to try to figure out how to solve there.
Well, one of those problems, good problems, is the ticket memberships are sold out now, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so are you moving more toward a customer retention and customer loyalty strategy as opposed to customer acquisition? I'm talking like a marketing geek because that's what Curtis and I are. But
Yeah, yeah. For a long time, a lot of our focus and the way that our ticketing team was structured was ticket sales individuals going out trying to find those new season ticket numbers. And, in IC, we're charged with trying to figure out how to point them in the right direction, give them the right prospects, how to mine some of our ticketing data to find those people. And that's all kind of going away in the last year since we sold out, right? So now some of those people who were previously ticket sales reps are now transitioning into more service roles because we have this huge base of season ticket holders and we need to make sure that we're servicing them the right way and providing the right experience for them. So it's definitely shifting more from sales forward service as we move on here.
Curtis, this reminds me of our conversation with Emily Belak from the Martech Group when we talked about understanding the entirety of the funnel, which happens before somebody becomes a customer. It continues long past after they become a customer. Is all this ringing a bell to you as a fellow marketing geek?
Definitely. And adapting and adjusting your organization based on where you're at with those types of things too, right? So going back to, the frontline, salespeople who maybe were doing a bunch of outbound calls before are now receiving, inbound calls or their type of calls are now something different. So you've got to readjust and maybe retrain some of the folks, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
you've got some new KPIs that you're measuring towards and new initiatives. And so it's important to do that.
Yes. It's been a good shift for sure. Like I said, we focused a lot on that handoff before, right? Between from getting the person from the sales when the sale was made over to that service team and making sure that was a seamless transition. And then we were onboarding new season ticket members in the right way so that they were learning about, the benefits that came with their season ticket membership with us and, how to get the best out of their game day experience. But now, that handoff's kind of done. On the sales side, we still do a little bit. We'll figure out obviously how to manage that waiting list, right? And we're still trying to add people to that waiting list so that we're in a good position moving forward there. But yeah, it's different, right? It's definitely different than how it had been years prior.
Scott, one of the first, or actually the first commandment of the Bullhorns and Bullseyes podcast is know thine customer. And we're now, this is the third leg of a three episode story arc where 2 episodes ago we talked with a brand strategist who part of her process, the imperative first part of her process is getting her clients to understand the customer base. And it's not a monolithic, which goes back to our second or last week's episode with Emily, is we talked about dicing these people into personas and segmenting your audience so you're not just doing a one messaging or either vehicle or tactic or message itself fits all type of strategy. So I know that you now, I'm guessing you have to take a whole new look at this customer base as this loyal waiting list, fan base, as opposed to, geez, we got to get people interested. I know you guys were always selling out the stadium, but it's not like it is now. So what are you doing as a team to really understand your customer base, which are fans?
Yes, yeah, and we're doing a lot to try to capture that fan profile, and this is a big thing we work with the NFL as well. The NFL kind of drives a lot of stuff down through all 32 teams there, on top of the things that we do at our own team level. But we definitely try to understand, tenure is a big thing with us. If somebody's been a season ticket holder, Tom, like you said, maybe with your tenure who's been with us for 50 years, um, they need a different way of being serviced than the person who's here for the first time or a rookie season ticket members that we have here, right? So um, that's one thing. Even out of training camp, right? We had 5 days of training camp last week, and we have different levels of memberships, right? So you could be in our premium club area, which is a little higher level experience there. We try and treat them in a different way. And so we have a VIP 10 experience out of training camp as opposed to just, general fans maybe coming through the doors and going to sit in the bleachers and watch training camps. All that stuff we try to tailor according to the experience that we want to deliver, but also to the experience that makes sense for the person as an individual there.
Could you talk through maybe some of the actual data gathering initiatives that you will execute to understand these various personas?
Yeah. So first and foremost, and we try to enrich our data as best we can. So if you become a season ticket holder with us, we can go out and there's ways of purchasing additional levels of data out of you, right? Getting your education level or your household, just some of the basic demographic stuff that's out there to different services. So that kind of helps set a baseline for some of those personas there. But really, we dive a lot into surveying our fans, even getting into some focus groups, one-on-one type interviews with them there. So one of the main surveys that we do is called the NFL's Voice of the Fan. And the NFL coordinates this again with all the teams so they can benchmark and provide insights, across all the teams. But that's one that we've done for years, provides us a pretty good level of understanding of the customer, but we kind of wanted something more. So last year we worked with them in order to kind of deliver our own voice of the fan survey there, so we could get even deeper into different questions and different profiles that they like. So that went pretty well. We were able to really do some fun stuff with that too. We wanted to kind of keep it fresh, so we would ask them around Thanksgiving, what's the best Thanksgiving side? What's your favorite Christmas tradition? There's things of that nature there. So in addition to capturing just some of the basics around like who your favorite player is, maybe what your shirt size is, some actionable things that we can do with data there.
And speaking of actionable things you can do with data, I was reminded this morning, Curtis, working with a client, that it's so important to take this data of converted customers and feed that back into your marketing strategy, both literally and figuratively. So you could talk through the ways that people do that. But so many companies, as we talked about from the very beginning of this season, fail to do that. They just feel like customer acquisition is the end of a success story and that's all there is to it. When really you need that data, don't you, to go back and inform both your strategy and the algorithms that are operating on your
Yeah.
behalf?
It's like they put so much work into the front end on the acquisition side, purchasing data or lists, and then paying money to advertise and do all these other things, and then they acquire the customer, and then they don't do anything more after that. at least from a data perspective, right? So they don't survey, um, they don't ask. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is you're not going to get anything unless you ask, right? So
Right.
what we've talked about quite a bit, Tom, and what we're trying to do with more of our customers is to ask existing customers who have had not only a good experience, but a poor experience and get their feedback because it's going to allow you to shift and adjust what you're doing from a service or product level. And it might inform you what you should be doing from a marketing perspective as well.
Yeah. It just to go expand on that point, we're also now asking clients for richer data than simply who converted and who didn't. So in the case of this client, I'm thinking of a conversion was a visit to a website and a fill out of a form, right? So that's a conversion. Now, if all we took was that data and fed it back to the algorithms, then anyone who took that action looks like a good lead,
Mhm.
right? But what we want to know is that what happened after that conversion. That conversion, they haven't become a customer yet in this client's case. So when you follow up with them, out of the 50 or 100 people, let's say 100 people that filled out the form, how many of those look like good leads? Meaning somebody called them or found some other way to qualify them. And then of the qualified leads, so maybe there's 50 qualified out of 100, how many become clients? Because we don't want the 40 that didn't become clients, even though they look good on paper. We want to know about the 10 that became clients, and that's what we want our algorithms to go looking for,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yep. 100%. And I could see Scott, it sounds like, when you had mentioned some of this data, like, their education level and, some demographic info, right? So knowing that demographic information about who's purchasing, who's buying, who's loyal, informs you about how to make a better use of marketing going forward. Why spend marketing on audiences that at the end of the day likely aren't going to be interested or maybe can't afford. I've got a project we're working on with a client right now, a product that's 5 times what a normal person who would be interested in this product would purchase. Right? So let's say this normal item is $1,000. They're $5,000. So to to look at the general audience and say, well, anyone in our general audience would purchase this is incorrect. It's not an impulse buy. It's not even a mine broke, I need a replacement purchase. There's some advantages to this $5,000 product versus the 100,000 or the $1,000 product. You have to now communicate those advantages, but communicate it only to that audience who's likely to purchase. If you communicate it to people who can't afford or who maybe could afford but aren't going to see the benefit, your marketing's going to waste.
Yeah, for real life example on that, Curtis, do you guys think back last year we had Taylor Swift here for hottest concert in the summer last year, right? Very difficult to get tickets for, sold out, within minutes. But we had, as you pointed out, Tom, a web form up for some of our premium suites, right? And that's a higher level experience for sure, a higher level ticket price and designed more for 20 people, have your own space, catered food and beverage, all that stuff, right? And we were trying to find targets for that. But we got flooded with our web form from people who just wanted to figure out how to get tickets to Taylor Swift, right? In a lot of cases, it was 13, 14-year-old girls going on a website and figuring this out. Well, sorry, you don't have, thousands of dollars needed to purchase a suite to Taylor Swift. So we had to do some things to kind of sift through those leads and make sure that we were spending our time efficiently on the right ones there.
Yeah. Um, One of the things I know that you do, Scott, to glean some of these insights from fans and customers is focus groups, which, focus groups in the last maybe 20 or 30 years sort of became like this, it was looked on as trite or, a relic of the past, the Pepsi taste challenge or whatever it was. Focus groups are not that. So first of all, I'm a huge advocate for what focus groups can be. And these are, you know, qualitative research studies, with conversations with real people that glean really deep insights, far more than, some data in a survey typically. But there's a funny story about how your focus groups began, and share with us and tell us how your focus groups maybe evolved from this funny story.
Yeah. So when I started here, my position was hired in the marketing department, and I came in, super excited to be in the NFL and be with the Lions, and just wanted to learn every single part of the business. So I told them, hey, it was getting ready to kick off the season about this time, and I said, what are my game day responsibilities going to be? And said I'm up for doing anything. I just want to be here, just want to learn, take it all in. So long story short, I ended up at the kids' face painting table. And so they put me there, $1 a cheek to get the leaping lion painted on your face there. And that was good. And I learned that. And it took me probably half a game to kind of really understand how to run that. But I was there for basically the entire first season. And then actually, I hired a new marketing manager about halfway through the season. And he came to run that station with me. We hired another marketing guy. He came to run that with me. And so you end up with these three big guys in suits. They're kind of manning the kids' face painting. Not the most welcoming thing there. So uh, I came to the off season. I said, "Hey, that was great. Great. I got that experience, but I don't want to do that again. Right? I can do something more." So I had, some experience with focus groups from a prior job there, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna propose focus groups for the next year," and executed them. And lo and behold, some of our executive team, they loved them. They loved getting the videos and recaps afterwards, and it's been on ever since with the focus groups there. So.
Were there any surprises that came out of that first focus group? Because typically, not typically, but oftentimes when I'm doing focus groups, I will either the client will be watching or watching a replay, and there's some eye openers because so many times companies, brands, whatever, think they know their customers so well, and they do to an extent, but there's these blind spots. And those blind spots can be game changing. Either you can pursue an opportunity you didn't know was there, or you can fix a problem you didn't realize was festering. So, in your case, any surprises that came from those early focus groups?
Yeah, I think early on, I was just surprised at how much people enjoyed being in the room and how much they wanted to be a part of it. And I understand that we're unique in sports, and obviously there's a connection to the team. So, other businesses don't have that, but we're lucky where we have people who want to talk to us. Got a lot of cases there. Um, so yeah, that was nice. And also sometimes just learning how to kind of guide the conversation to keep it productive and get what we want out of it. Sometimes you get some chance really want to dominate and kind of take it different directions than where you're hoping to go with it there. And that's beneficial too, actually, because you kind of learn, what people want to talk about and where the passion and value lies for them there. So while I might have a 3-page kind of script or outline of questions that I want to get to, sometimes I get to half of it because we end up diving into a topic that, really nets some good conversation there. And so we just kind of go down that path.
Yeah. Curtis, I don't know if I have a question, but I just want to observe for the listening audience who can't see the video. You're wearing Honolulu blue and I'm wearing silver. So it's like we're right on
We're
brand
trying to be
today.
on brand.
We
Yeah.
didn't even plan didn't even plan it.
Yeah, Tom, sometimes I had people come in the focus shoots. I had people come in with wearing masks or face paint or all the crazy fans that we have that you see on game day. We'll get them in the room. Even sometimes people walk in and they'll set a beer on the table, which I always encourage because get a few of that in you, then you're more willing to speak a little freely there.
Yeah, Scott, I observed something. You just touched on something that jogged a memory here. Just the other day, I was on social media and somebody observed about Lions fans that it used to go to the game and the jerseys you saw were, Spielman, Porsche, Sanders, all these past heroes. And now you go to the stadium and you're seeing Hutchinson and you're seeing St. Brown and you're seeing Goff. And so, like, going back to understanding your customer, you have this huge segment of your audience who isn't just loving the brand because of the legacy that they remember. It's like they're really new. They're in the tribe in a fresh and new way. So are you seeing a shift in sort of the dynamics with in some of your efforts and some of your study?
Well, I think with some of the players you mentioned, and this goes back to my Pistons days too with the '04 team, but Hutchinson, St. Brown, they really represent kind of the blue collar work ethic of Detroit. And so we have those players that I think the fans can really connect to there. Um, so that's been great to see. And then Kurt, we recently had a rebrand, so we got new uniforms now. So over the past year and going into this season, fans are kind of wanting to refresh the wardrobe and make sure they've got the latest look and everything there. And that's actually one of the things that we talked about in some of our focus groups. And it's fun to kind of talk with fans and hear what direction they want, our uniforms to go or certain logos and stuff there. And the ties that they have to some of the history that we have there and wanting to see that. So, we brought back the black uniforms this year. A large part of that was Dan Campbell, and he likes those. But I remember sitting in many focus groups where people talked about the eras of the black uniforms and wanting those to be back in on the sideline there.
Curtis, I can either turn it over to you for a question or stump you with a question that I have for you. Which would you
Let's stump
prefer?
me. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a client, hypothetically, that has evolved from a customer acquisition strategy to retention and loyalty. And they say they're going to go out and gather some data. What data would you want to see? And then how do you suspect your marketing mix might shift in such an occasion? Because Scott's doing the hard work of telling the marketers what he's hearing and seeing on the ground. What should they do with it?
Yeah, well, I'd start asking a bunch of why questions, which I've learned
Mm,
from you, right? So, why did you buy? Um, uh, why do you continue to do business, right? So, what are the benefits that you're getting out of it? Uh, what would you maybe say to somebody else who was interested in the product or service? And then go back and try to match that to what we're actually does that match with what we're actually communicating to our target audience, and are we actually offering those types of things? So like Scott's saying, like he knows his target market well. He just mentioned blue collar of Detroit, right? So I gotta imagine there's some planning from that perspective, from knowing your demographics and then knowing what the team is doing, which would be more of the delivery side, which you don't have any control over. And as marketers, we don't. Even if you're a
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
we don't have necessarily direct control over what happens on the service end. Um, so I think getting that feedback and having a pathway to communicate that and have it received internally in the organization and hopefully acted on, and then being able to respond, to those types of things, to be able to say, hey, we have the opportunity to, maybe do better from an apparel or whatever, side of the business if we do these types of things here because our audience is X. So
yeah.
knowing that audience, knowing what they value, knowing what's important to them can help you make those shifts.
Yeah. And I'm no expert, Scott, but the way I look at it is customer retention is customer acquisition. Like keeping those customers happy and in the funnel and hopefully turning them into brand advocates that might do some marketing on your behalf is huge. And if you don't believe me, just ask somebody who ran the marketing for a team that went 0-16. How difficult it is to acquire a loyal fan base, right, Scott?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And every year we go through renewals of our season ticket members, and it's always a big, big initiative for us to keep as many of them as possible, right? Because then it's just less new customers that you have to find. Obviously, that's 101, right? But so even secret in the last few years, we've had some price increases, right? And so that's affecting decisions on some of our season ticket members there. And I think we're delivering a strong product, and there's a lot of additional benefits and things that come with the season ticket membership. And we've been able to review at a great rate over the last couple of years there. So absolutely, keeping them is far easier than going out and finding those other ones.
So speaking of
Yeah.
KPIs, if I could really quick then, Tom. So Scott, are you giving objectives or the team giving objectives to say that this year we want to hit X renewal rate? You guys have those KPIs, and how are you measuring those if you are within the organization?
We do, yes. We have some models that we use to try to project what we think our renewal rate is going to be. Based on how you're using your tickets, right? If that's the biggest indicator, right? Are you coming to games? Are you getting to see the value of those tickets? And if you're not coming to the games, Curtis, are you passing them on to Tom or somebody else in your organization that is able to use them, right? So there's that. Tenure is a long one too. If you've been here for 10 years already, it's more likely that you're going to stay as opposed to somebody who's, maybe a first year season ticket number. So we look at that and then we use that to really kind of project out some of our revenue goals and things we have there. So if we're able to renew, let's say, 90% every year, then how much do we need to do in new business to achieve our goals there? So yes, we go through that on a continual basis.
Yeah. The point I was going to make is, if you can see that customer retention is a form of customer acquisition, in your case, in others, with limited supply, then that retention creates scarcity because there's only so many seats in the stadium, and that scarcity commands premium. So you can actually, through your customer retention efforts, hopefully, incrementally increase what you charge and the value that you provide. I got two last things for you, Scott. One is a question, and the other is just a quick observation. My question is, you call this the floating lion? Is that right? That's on your shirt?
Leaping lion, leaping lion.
Leaping lion. What do they call that old school lion that I love? The sleek one with the two stripes behind it. Is there a name for that old school logo?
I don't know if there's an official name for that, but some story from a focus group tying back to that. And I never noticed looking at that logo before. I did a focus group with kids 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago now, and we were talking about using that logo during our 90th season. And so we were showing them a bunch of the old logos, and it was actually my first time trying to lead a focus group with kids ranging from like 7 to 11 age range. And one of the kids pointed out that logo you're talking about, if you look at it closely, it looks like it has like an 8 foot long tail. And it comes out and comes like goes all the way along the back kind of head there. So I don't know what the exact one is, but take a second look at that. You'll notice how long the tail is on that line.
Yeah. It just reminds me, I think it's from the 50s or 60s, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I remember seeing it as a kid, and it's one of those things
Yeah,
that
it's
brands can
actually
take
this one
advantage of.
here, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the guy. Yep. It's just, nostalgia can be a great brand asset. So, all right. And then my final thing is I just need to encourage people, if you're on social media, you need to follow the Detroit Lions. I follow them on Twitter. It's a great follow. I don't follow many professional sports franchises, even the ones that I'm a big fan of, but it's entertaining. It's a little bit, I don't want to say irreverent because that's going to sound, but the way that the Wendy's account is entertaining, it's worth following even if you're not Detroit Lions fans, but it's one of the best in the business. So whoever your team is over there, hopefully they're going to listen to this episode and take the kudos that I intend for them. So go follow at Detroit Lions for sure.
I definitely appreciate that. They do a great job for sure. And always looking to kind of push the boundaries a little bit there, but again, giving the fans what they want there for sure.
Exactly. Curtis, any final thoughts or final questions before you
I
let
mean,
your friend
what else
Scott
are you
go?
excited for this season, Scott? I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens, but there's a lot of excitement around the team, and hopefully we get to the playoffs again, and I think there's a good opportunity for that to happen. But what are you excited about? And I guess what other things are you guys doing now that you're booked out? It's going to be a little bit harder to get into games. What are your advice to those fans who want to still experience, have a good experience and those types of things?
Yeah, well, obviously with the success that we've had, I'm excited about some of the primetime games, and we kick off week 1 against Matthew Stafford and the Rams again on Sunday Night Football. We've got a Monday Night Football game at the end of September against Seattle. So those are always fun. Kind of out of our normal routine, we're used to being here on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So late nights with Monday night and Sunday Night Football, but that is super exciting, and there's just some different energy in the building for the fans on those games. I think
Especially with Matt Stafford in the house.
that as well. But I think we've got some fun things planned for this year. We do a lot of recognition of our former players and doing a good job. Bringing that back into the fold. So there's some things planned around that as well. And then hopefully, again, we get to the end of the season and we have some meaningful games and some more home playoff games come 2025.
Who's in the lineup for Thanksgiving Day?
The lineup for Thanksgiving Day in terms of halftime?
No, who are we playing against?
Oh, that is against Chicago. So we'll have number 1 pick Caleb Williams, and the Bears will be in town.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game.
I'll give you my prediction on Caleb Williams offline.
All right.
So, we know he's a big fan. He listens to the podcast. So,
Nice.
all right. Well, we should let you go, Scott. September 8th is going to be here before you know it. That is when Matt Stafford comes to town. Prime time, you mentioned it. It's going to be an exciting season. And September 8th, I will have already been celebrating my birthday for a whole week. Probably still will be. And we'll be watching. We'll be rooting you on. I would just like to conclude by two quick things. Remember, the first commandment of the Bullhorns and Bullseyes podcast is know thine customer. And then the 4 or 5 words that I heard Scott say today is true for football teams and it's true for brands. Give the fans what they want. That's the takeaway. If you know that customer, you can give the fans what they want and they'll keep coming back for more.
Absolutely. That's it. Thank you very much for having me. Go Lions.
Go Lions.